Welcome to the Epiphany Sutra podcast, and thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Please introduce yourself.
All right. Well, my name is Wade Sugiyama. I am the founder of a consulting company called Guide the Hero Consulting. I'm also a dad and a father, a husband. I've been married for almost 14 years. I've got 2 kids. I've got my son, Weston, who's 10 years old. And I have a daughter named Kaya, who's 7. I live out in an area called Snoqualmie. Like, you know Snoqualmie. I don't know if all your listeners know Snoqualmie. It's about 40 minutes east of Seattle. But I wasn't born here. I was born and raised in Hawaii. Grew up there until I was in college and came up here to go to the University of Washington, and then just stayed here ever since. Professionally, I've been all over the map. I've been in entrepreneurship. I've started a handful of companies in the arts as well as then in gaming, telecom, and then my last job was at an agency, a big global agency, where I worked with a lot of enterprise clients like Starbucks and Samsung and AARP, a lot of different clients, primarily in the marketing space, in the loyalty and customer marketing space. So it's a little bit about me in a quick, short blurb.
Amazing. And now you're a solopreneur.
That's right.
So it's one of the most challenging things to be.
It is.
Right?
It is.
Me being one, I can tell you that. And you probably left something that is probably a dream job for so many of them out there.
Yes.
And to take that big a step, the calling must have been really strong.
It was.
Right.
It was. It took me a while to really decide I was going to make that jump, and I did love the job. I did love the people I worked with, and I'd been there for quite a while, and the challenge of working at an agency and lots of different businesses was a lot of fun because you get to solve lots of different problems for different companies. So it did take quite a bit for me to make the jump, but I kind of felt myself this pull to something that I was really passionate about and kind of made the jump about just about 7 months ago now. So I'm kind of just getting going.
And can you speak more to what was that you were so passionate about?
Absolutely. So long story short, in my work, I was working in loyalty and customer loyalty. What I started to see was this larger trend going on in loyalty. And customer loyalty, for your viewers, it's really about marketing to your customers because it's much easier and cheaper to market to your own customers already than it is to go get a brand new customer, right? And so most businesses understand that your customers are so valuable when it comes to marketing. And so that is why loyalty came about in the first place, right? The simplest of loyalty programs of like a punch card type of thing, like buy 10, get a free thing, right? That's as simple as it gets people to understand there's value in that. Well, what we started to notice as a trend, what I started to notice as a trend, I don't know, how many loyalty programs do you think you're a part of right now? More than 5?
I'm sure. I mean, I wouldn't call it loyalty program, not by that name.
Yes.
But then in concept, if you're going to think about it, then yes, I think there are so many things you keep going back to, right?
Yes.
There is a certain relationship, an unsaid relationship you've built with so many brands.
Right. And so like what we're seeing in the market in loyalty is that there's just so many brands that have loyalty programs or something like it, that the expectations from customers is very, very high. So we used to be able to give a free pizza or like a free drink or something, and people are like, oh, that's great. But now I know this business over here gives a free pizza after this many pizzas I buy or this many coffees I buy. And so what happens is the expectations are higher and higher for me to be loyal to you as a business. And so it's more expensive for companies to have loyalty programs, and it becomes hard for it to be financially viable to have this. So what the companies that have loyalty programs, what they're trying to do is trying to solve this problem. And you'll hear me talk a little bit about time and attention. Time and attention is the main problem at hand, even if they have said, I love you, you're one of my favorite brands, I will give you my email, you can talk to me as much as you want. It's still very challenging to get their time and attention. And so what brands are doing is they're trying to solve that problem in lots of different ways. Like, they don't all call it time and attention, but they're trying to solve it in lots of different ways. Marketing buzzwords like personalization, segmentation, loyalty programs, like CRM, these are all the ways that people are trying to solve them. But what happens is, even after investing all that time and money it takes to do all that, they're still seeing customer engagement start to go down. And that is one of the big problems. And I was there. I've been there side by side with a lot of my clients, felt the frustration of that. And what traditionally would have worked in marketing, we have other types of gimmicks and sweepstakes and promotions and offers. They don't work like they used to work. And so what I started to notice was this was happening, and how could we fix that? How could we help companies to fix that? Until I came across this concept and this idea that I now call like customer moments that matter. And that was the big aha moment for me. And once I came across this and put this together, and it was a combination of a lot of different things that I was doing, that was that epiphany for me. It was like, oh, this is interesting. It got a lot of traction with clients. And I could feel the difference of working on that and doing everything else in my job. And that was sort of my own catalyst to say, like, I think this is something I want to do on my own and venture off and spend all my time on, and have the opportunity to come back to entrepreneurship and build a business around. So after a long stint of building some momentum at the agency with clients that I was working with, made the jump in late October of last year of 2024 to start my own consulting company.
Amazing. I heard you say time and attention and moments that matter.
Yes.
So are these nuances that you have felt drawn to? I mean, like, in my practice of, facilitating creative ritual experiences, there are certain nuances that I feel drawn to. One of that is, activating your senses, offering sensorial experiences. Is this something like that you have felt drawn to?
Absolutely. So in the practice of creating moments that matter, one of the tools that I will use is the idea of appealing to the senses in some way. Okay. So you do that in design or in smell, taste, touch, any kind of way that you can. Right. Those are signals to help create. It's one of the tools to be able to create. So very similar in that regard. And I would say from a time and attention standpoint, what I always like to describe is marketing right now is a professional sport. Right. And because the time and attention of consumers, even your customers, is more scarce than it's ever been in like modern history, right? Right. It's like, but modern history is more scarce than it's ever been. Most marketing data will say you have less than 10 seconds to capture somebody's attention. Right. More recent data will say 4 to 6 seconds. And if you play on social media, or if anyone out there does that, it's 3 seconds, right? You have very little time. And so it is an enormous challenge for marketers to do this and to be able to capture that attention, and the skills required to be able to do that. And one of the ways is storytelling. I know you and I have talked a lot about storytelling in that regard. Is a new-ish skill that wasn't required when I had my MBA or business school before, and so it is a newish skill to be able to take on. So absolutely, those are all parts of what I do.
Can you speak a little more to the specificity of this time and attention?
Yeah.
How do you capitalize on it? What is it that you do different? So also, do you really think that the capturing attention within 3 seconds, within 6 seconds, is that a short-term attention capturing, or does that work over long term? And I would like to understand all those perspectives around.
Yeah, so it's a great question. So I would say, for the last part of your question about is it short term, is it long term, I'd say you have to earn more time and attention so that when in the beginning, when you only have that amount of time, you have to be really good to be able to get it. So that's how you get it in the beginning, and you have to continue to earn it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the way what I do that's different, and how I enjoy what I enjoy about this time and attention piece is what I tell my clients. So I'll ask you the same thing: is if you can picture someone in your life,
Mm-hmm.
and if I talked about this 10 seconds, 4 seconds, that you would give more than 10 seconds of your own time and attention to. And think non-family, because family, you can have this easy excuse of, well, they're family, I have to give them. So think non-family, someone in your mind who you would be willing to give more than 10 seconds of your time and attention to.
Mm-hmm.
And I always tell clients, like, think about why you would give them that amount of your time and attention. I'm not going to ask you who or what, because sometimes that can be very personal. But usually what I'll say is anybody in the room, if I were to go around and ask every single person why you would give this person that amount of time, at some point in your answer, you would tell me about an amazing moment that you had with that person. Could be a small moment, doesn't matter. It could have been they were there for you at a tough time, or you had an amazing experience together, or you had a great conversation together. At some point, you would tell me about this, about a moment. And that's what I call moments that matter, right? Those are moments that matter that earn more time and attention for us as humans. It's sort of how we catalog that somebody earned it from us, right? Like, oh, this person was there for me. And like, so if they're going to call me, I'm going to answer the phone, right? And so it's how we earn. And so my interpretation of that is using that in a marketing sense of being able to earn by creating moments that matter for customers. Because now you've earned it, and I'm willing to listen when you talk a little differently. I might give you more than the 10 seconds because I've earned that time and attention. So creating the customer moments that matter is the method, is the answer to in my way. And there's a methodology that I follow that I've put together, and I call it the time and attention method. And that's sort of the how to get from where you are today to like 2 customer moments that matter, right? You go through this sort of methodology to do that.
When you give me the example of think about someone you want to spend time with.
Yes.
And and you said that I would have had a moment.
Yes.
A memorable moment with them, which is what is going to take me back to wanting to spend time with them.
Yes.
Now, when you're marketing something, when we're talking about that perspective, our customers come from diverse backgrounds. And how can one moment talk to so many diverse customers?
Such a great question. So I think that part of it comes down to what I always tell clients is your specific customers. You have to understand what they go through, right? Their lives. And so there's 3 main pillars of the time and attention method. And the very first one is what I call thinking in moments that matter. So it's just shifting your brain to think a little differently in this like idea of moments first. I call it thinking in moments that matter. I call it Tim for short. It is just like this changing of the way that you think about your customers. And primarily when marketers go and plan their marketing calendar, and I've seen this from the biggest of companies, you plan them around company tentpole moments, usually. So they're around product launches or big events or quarters that you like want to hit numbers around, right? They're all company-based moments. The shift is trying to think about moments for a customer. What's going on in their lives? So you and I have talked a little bit about storytelling. And the second pillar is what I call Guide the Hero, which is why my company is called Guide the Hero. And it's this component of story where in every major story, every major movie that we've all seen, there's a protagonist, there's a hero in that story. And there's this other really important character called a guide character. So the Gandalf or the Dumbledore, or people tell me use Cars, the movie Cars all the time, Doc Hudson in Cars, Or Moana is one of my favorites, like Moana's grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that I use this analogy for companies is to say, old-fashioned and traditional marketing, companies put themselves in the position of the hero.
Mm-hmm.
Most times. It is one of the biggest challenges that companies have now, is that is how companies have always sort of positioned themselves.
Mm-hmm.
But the power of time and attention is that we have, as consumers, have so much choice of what to give our attention to, that companies have to be so much better. And so taking the position of the guide is a much stronger position. So when I say customer moments versus company tentpole moments and thinking in moments, that is part of it, is switching the perspective to say, okay, what are customer moments that are opportunities for us to communicate to our market to our customers? So what I'll describe is there are 4 sort of areas where we are most prone almost or primed to remember moments. So in this like exercise of thinking in moments that matter, it's helpful to understand where we tend to remember moments. So when you ask me like, how do you go create them? First place I always help companies understand and clients understand, where are the easiest places most primed to be able to do that? And there's 4 different ones. It's based off a psychological concept called the peak end rule. The peak end rule basically is a psychological bias that we all have, that we tend to remember only particular moments of an experience, not the whole thing. The peaks of it, the highest and the lowest moments, and then we tend to remember what happens at the end. It's just sort of how we're wired. And so we have to understand that it is not an average. Like what we remember is just not an average of the overall experience. Your last vacation, you don't remember every single moment. You remember the highs and the lows. I
mean, that basically comes down to moments that matter.
Exactly. So when you're coming back to describing for your own customers, you have to think about in their lives, where are those for them? So what I usually have clients do is we start by brainstorming out for your customers, not in the context of your brand, for your customers. Where are those moments? Where are their peak moments? So I call them peaks, pits, milestones, and transitions. So the 4 different peaks and pits are your highs and lows, your high moments and your low moments. Milestones tend to just be these like opportunities to celebrate a milestone type of event for you. And then transitions are ends and beginnings. So sometimes those are the same, right? Like an end of a job sometimes means the beginning of another job. And it is why things like Spotify Wrapped are so valuable, because Spotify understood there's this moment we all, as their customers at the end of the year, we are all like looking back to the year. It has nothing to do with music or Spotify, but they picked this moment to say, let's take a look at what you did in music in the past year, right? It is a customer moment.
Right, it's about you.
Yes, it's all about you. And so that's a huge transition moment for all of us, the end of a year to the beginning of the next year. So they picked a very specific moment. So transitions are such a powerful, almost easy place to go first. Where do your customers have transition moments? Is it their first time doing this, or is it their last time doing this? It is an excellent place to help your customers highlight a transition moment. So anyway, that's a little bit more. Like I could nerd out on this forever. But
I think transition moments are so interesting because when we talk about rituals,
yes,
rituals always have something called as a liminal space. Okay, and it's in that liminality where transformation takes place.
Yes,
right, and they're basically those transition moments. Similarly, when I have a background in theater, and in theater we say that it's those transition moments where actual drama happens.
Yes.
So you brought up something very important.
Yeah, I think the transitions are. I think the theater background is a fantastic example, because theater does such a great job. Think of it at the end of a play, at the end of a show. What happens? You have this like all the members come out, you bow and you clap, everyone claps. If you just left, turned the lights off, it would kind of feel weird, right? It was kind of, well, it's the end of the show, and that is a fantastic, almost ritual
Right.
to finish a show off, and people
Right.
understand that that happens.
Right.
It is a fantastic way to transition from the end of the show to
Right.
leaving the theater.
Right.
And so there are a lot of people who are very skilled in creating moments are good at creating rituals where there wasn't one before to help people transition
Right.
from whether it's a hard time or not. You have sometimes just the creation of a
Right.
moment. So something that I've done as a fun exercise is sometimes during COVID we would have we would all remote working, and we're all and if someone would leave the company, you'd have these really awkward Teams calls or remote calls where you kind of replacing like last day happy hours, right? And thought about transition moment. You're leaving the company, and people want to celebrate with you, but being on a remote call, very awkward. You can only have one conversation,
Right.
and I've been on many of those. And so what some of my coworkers and I had put together was what we called an aloha ceremony for your last day, and it was based off of my my time in Hawaii and the ritual of lei giving. And so what we would do is we would create this ceremony where everybody has a chance to speak about this person leaving, and then we'd be on a joint PowerPoint presentation that's showing on the screen, and we had a whole bunch of visual like flower leis on the screen, and essentially you got to put a lei onto somebody as you spoke about them. And it was this ritual, this transition ritual and it ended up being such a beautiful thing because everyone got to speak a little bit, say something nice about you, but like create something that was more ceremonial for someone transitioning out of the company. So I think it's such a great like analogy for moments of like, and your point about rituals are so powerful in those moments. And it would be one way I would say is a very easy place to go if you were trying to create a moment. It's like, what is there a ritual you can create here? I think it's a good opportunity to do that.
I think you brought some really interesting points there. One is how you have tied your practice back to your culture. This point about transitions. And I think transitions matter now more than ever because the world around us is changing faster than it has ever, right? I mean, evolution and with technology evolving every single day, life is just changing so much that I think uh, marketing also needs to constantly keep rethinking and strategies need to be shifting.
Yeah.
And I love how you're integrating rituals into the idea of uh, your marketing strategies, right? So I have two things that came to me. One is all that you are saying. Do you think that applies only to marketing, or outside of the marketing area as well to life?
I think it absolutely applies. I would say, like in the personal, what was most powerful for me about this idea of moments that matter was that I took it on as a very personal. It was almost sacred to me personally, and a very like in a way that I wanted to do that in my own life for others. One, it helped me understand how I would do it for millions if I could do it for myself and for others around me. But also, it became a way to connect with people in a very genuine way. And so there's plenty of opportunities with, like I was mentioning about, if you think back to somebody in your life that may have happened, those moments might have happened kind of like on accident or like not intended to be that way. But there's power in trying to do that, like actually intentionally saying, I want to find a way to create moments for somebody. I care about this person, and so how can I show them that I care? And you can do the same thing, like where are there those moments for them, transition moments and so on, like there's tons of people getting laid off right now.
Mm-hmm,
It's a
mm-hmm.
huge transition moment for
Right.
them, and finding a way to connect with them, having coffee, having lunch, or whatever with folks that are in that
Mm-hmm.
space is one way that I've tried to do that and connect, because it's a tough place to
Right.
be.
Right.
And so I think there's plenty of opportunity in our personal lives to be able to do this. I'll say professionally, outside of marketing, everybody has been a part of pitches where you have to pitch something, or you're trying to get investment from somewhere, or you're trying to convince a group of people of your point of view. And you want to be memorable in that scenario,
Right.
in a presentation or whatever. And I think those are fantastic opportunities. So individual presentations, you can do that in that microcosm.
Right.
So a transition at the end of a presentation, I always coach clients that that is the single most important part of your presentation.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you want the beginning to be strong, and you want there to create peaks. You don't want any pits in that experience,
Right.
but you want to intentionally create peaks. So that at the end, you should be able to say, okay, what should be the peaks of this presentation? Right. And then what are we doing at the end that will make it memorable? Because you know that transition is important. So there's a couple of big presentations that I've done in my career, and one of them was one of my favorites. We did it was a couple day long workshop, and where everyone's exhausted right at the end of these full day workshops.
Right.
And we were trying to find a way at the end to help sum it all up and create a moment. Right. And what the team had come up with was creating these old style stamps that, with the wax stamp.
Right.
And so we did with the company brand on the custom stamps that were made. And we created a document at the end that was these are all the commitments we're making to each other. And then everybody had to use their own stamp. And it was so fun, because who has a wax seal of their... Right. So it stood out. It was very memorable. And it was a fun way to finish the workshop. Right. And so you have to be intentional about creating that transition moment at the end. So just spending the extra time at the end of a presentation, and everyone's got presentations they got to do, to make it memorable is a really key piece. So lots of applications, I think, outside of marketing for sure.
Amazing. One thing that, one thought that seems to be yelling itself out to me is the word empathy.
Yes.
I feel at the core, what you are really focusing on is building empathy.
Yes.
Right. And when you said that it's about building connections, it's about everything. And the only way you can do that is through empathy.
Yes.
Right.
Absolutely. It is absolutely one of the most powerful pieces. And I think the hardest thing for a lot of companies to do, especially as big as they get, is trying to force themselves to think that way.
Right.
And I talked a little about hero and the guide.
Right.
And one of the things about it is we all, every single day, customers and ourselves, we all wake up every day as the heroes of our own stories. Is just how we're wired. Call it main character energy, main character syndrome, whatever your viewers have heard before, that terminology. It exists. And it's because we wake up and we're I have things to get done. I have problems I need to solve. And that's become more highlighted with the amount of attention that we're being drawn from us all day long. So that's why it's so hard for us to get out of that role. I had somebody, a client of mine, ask me Wade, it seems so intuitive to think, everyone wants to say, well, think what matters to the customer's at the middle, but why is it so hard? And I said, it's because we are sort of wired this way, to wake up and think in this hero mentality. Right. We are trying to solve our problems, our day. It takes a ton of effort to place yourself in that guide role. But if we think about, I always ask clients too to think about your favorite movies and guides and the heroes, what some of the common characteristics and what they sound like. They sound different. A guide sounds different than a hero does, right?
Absolutely.
And so there's quite a bit of difference of being able to demonstrate empathy as a guide,
right,
than there is as a hero, kind of saying
right,
like, I'm here to save your day type of work. So it is absolutely a cornerstone of being able to do this well,
mm-hmm.
but it is also such a challenge for a lot of people.
The guide and the hero just speak to classic archetypes from
Yes.
myths, folklore, right? And you also mentioned you grew up in Hawaii,
Yeah.
and you also gave an example of how a ritual from
Yes.
Hawaii, you incorporated that into your one of your workshops.
Yes.
What do you think about culture?
Yeah.
I think I feel like culture is something that's most overlooked, uh, right? And we are somewhere, we are also going, while we are talking a lot about diversity, we are, moving towards being more homogenous.
Yes.
So and where you come from is a really colorful world.
Yes.
Right, literally and metaphorically.
Right.
How do you see that? Like, one is, what are your thoughts around that?
Yeah.
And from a marketing perspective, from a story perspective, and just generally,
Yeah.
that's one. And the second part of my question is, do you find culture impacting what you do, your culture, where you come from? And can we speak to that a little more?
Yeah. So one, I think culture is incredibly important, not just because of how each individual culture has created. What I find fascinating about it, when I think about the moments idea, is what cultures have done individually over time is they've created moments.
Exactly.
Right? That's what they've done.
Right.
And they've found these specific times to create them. So like there's all these different cultures that celebrate specific milestones in age, right? Like they're somewhat arbitrary, but there's reasons that we've all come up with why this is a very special transition
Right.
from this age to this age. Or you have different like ways of doing things that developed out of like needs of the culture.
Right.
And so they're masters of creating moments that matter.
Right.
And that they're ingrained in you growing up or being around other people. You just know. One thing I love about the idea of rituals, and I read this study a long time ago, that like rituals, sometimes they can take on their own, you don't even need to know why they exist. They're like the why, and people are just willing to sort of like do them.
Right.
The one I find so fascinating is, so a long time ago, yeah, I was in the arts, and I was a hip hop dancer, and I was in dance, and I performed on the Showtime at the Apollo a long time ago. But if you know the Apollo, one of the things about at the Apollo, there's a tree stump there that you're supposed to rub the tree stump before you get on stage.
Okay.
I had zero idea where that came from.
Okay.
But I wouldn't dare get on the stage without doing it.
Right.
Right. So it wasn't about like understanding the why.
Right.
But there's a history of the culture of being on that stage that you want to respect and that you want, right? Like, so it's so powerful in that way. So I love culture, and I love your term about like we're all becoming more homogenous. So there's this idea of we get to create culture in a lot of different areas, whether it's within a corporate environment or a community environment.
Right.
And it's the same way of like we come up with ways to say like this is an important milestone or this is an important transition. So I think we should come up with a way to signify it or create a moment here. Right. And that is one of the more exciting parts of what I've seen kind of in culture creation and how that connects to moments. Now, your other part of the question about like my own culture, how that's impacted me.
Right.
I talked a little bit about the lei. So leis are probably one of the most impactful kind of cultural rituals that I've continued to use and follow.
How do you spell lei?
Oh, Lei. So lei,
okay.
yeah.
And can you also speak what exactly is this?
Of course. So in Hawaii, leis are given at many, many different times in celebration, right? And traditionally it's done with flower leis, right? Like you've seen people that go to Hawaii and get these like orchid leis. But in Hawaii, it's an art form all by itself. Well, the flowers that you use local flowers that are so fragrant, they're beautiful, and you you get them at celebratory times, congratulations, it's love, it signifies so much. And it is a beautiful ritual that has been not just for Polynesian culture, but has it's kind of prevalent throughout the entire islands. Like, so anybody who lives there knows this ritual. And so the biggest times you'd see is at graduations. It's the maybe most famous time. And you'd see kids with leis that come up to here, and you can't. And I had that in my senior year. You go out and you have to dump them into bags. You have people coming giving you so many leis. It is a beautiful gesture and such a simple thing to provide. And so when I came to the mainland, I started to feel that like there's nowhere I can buy leis to give.
Right.
And sometimes stores will do them now for graduations, and you see some kids with them on. And what I've done is what a lot of people did back home is if you don't buy flowers, because the flowers don't last very long, so people do candy leis. So you use like a cellophane tube, and you put candy in it, and you tie some ribbons in between, and you can give that. People have gotten really creative with how to do leis. People do ribbon leis, people do all kinds of different things. So I make my own candy leis.
Okay.
And I will give them out at certain situations. I gave them for people that I've hired on their first day. Okay. Again, trying to create a moment that mattered. And I try to carry on this like lei giving tradition wherever I can. So my daughter just got her blue belt in Taekwondo and got invited to the black belt club. And I wanted it to feel special. You know, they do a ceremony at the gym, but like I wanted it from our family to feel special. So I made a candy lei for my wife and my son and myself to give to her. Okay. So she got 3 at the end of her session. So it's like, and then I brought it into the workplace, right? I mentioned like as a lei giving ceremony for people that are leaving. And so it is a cultural tradition that I love to use and bring. It just feels so genuine and kind to be able to do that, and people like feel so I don't know how to describe it. It unexpected, right? It's very like doesn't usually happen, and so it's a great way. So this one I love and I bring from Hawaii all the time. You know, and I'm Japanese,
right?
And there's plenty of tradition sort of in the Japanese culture, but I grew up in more Hawaii culture than pure Japanese culture.
Okay.
What I'll say is something that I have followed more of a mantra, if you will, that I didn't really come across until I was an adult. Honestly, until I was an entrepreneur early on in my career, was this Japanese proverb that's about fall down 7 times and get up 8.
Okay.
And it's this idea that the way I interpret it, it's not just keep trying. It's about the idea of you really just have to stand up one more time, then you fall down. And that there's darkness sometimes in the early where there's a lot of times that you're going to have to fall.
Right.
But that there may be light at the end. And that you have to find a way through that darkness to get to the time where you can stand up, and you have to just keep standing up.
Right.
And it was when I found that, it was an emotional kind of connection, and it was I proud to some degree of like that it was a Japanese proverb, and I felt very connected to it, and I've come back to it quite a bit in my career, and referred back to it in my own sort of like mantra, but also like this way of teaching the idea of resilience and the idea that like you have to get up just one more time, right? Then you get knocked down. So those are the 2 maybe like biggest sort of cultural elements that's kind of gone throughout my life. There's probably lots of other things, throughout it, but those 2 really stuck out to me, as kind of cultural influences for me.
Great. I love that thing of you fall down 7 times and you stand up the 8th time. What is it called in Japanese? Do you know it?
It is nana korobi yaoki, which literally means like fall 8, rise, or fall 7, rise 8.
Okay.
And it's like a 4-character proverb from in Japanese culture. I don't know a ton about the origins of it, other than since I found it, I had kind of looked up more about it.
Right.
And just love it. It is such a. I've seen Nike use it with. I think Dwayne Wade had a Nike ad around it.
Okay.
And I've seen others kind of like it's not uncommon to see it around, but it's one of my favorites.
Both Hawaiian culture and Japanese culture also have a lot of folklores
Yes.
rooted in mythology,
Yes.
right? Is there any particular folklore or mythology that's your favorite, or which guides you as you guide the hero?
I would say like not particular. What I would say is Moana is one of my favorite movies, one of my kids' favorite movies. And I was so connected to it because it's like has this Polynesian kind of Hawaiian kind of flavor to it. I felt really connected to the movie, and it is one of my favorite movies to use as an example of using the story technique. And you and I have talked a little bit about Story Brand is a framework that I'm certified in, and is one of my favorite movies to use. So there's plenty of stories in my time from both those cultures, and you're totally right. There's so much mythology in that. But the one that always bubbles back up is Moana. Moana is the closest thing I could say that is impacting sort of the work I'm doing today. I'm sure my parents would laugh because they probably told me like hundreds of stories growing up.
Is there something that you remember?
I can't think of one right now that like is impacting me today necessarily. But Moana is maybe the closest thing, in that it's just I feel so connected to it,
right,
because of where I come from, and because of like the connection to the story brand framework. So that's probably the closest thing I could think of. And maybe my parents are gonna be like, "Wait, I swear we told you all these stories when we grew up." But so I can't think of one off the top of my head.
Moana is a story that's more recent, right?
Yeah.
It's not something you would have
had grown up with. It was just this great, and there's a lot of Hawaiian culture stories within Moana, right, that they drew from. Maui itself has a ton of folklore around Maui, but I think that the idea of what Moana did, for coming from Hawaii, it's very there's a lot of pride when things that go national or global that have any kind of tie to Hawaiian culture, or like the culture of Hawaii, because Hawaiian culture by itself is its own thing, right? I am not Hawaiian by ethnicity, but I have like Hawaii culture in me because I grew up there,
right?
And so that is part of like what I look for and I connect with is sort of that side of me too.
Wade, it's been a fantastic conversation.
Yes.
I have a little gift for you here.
Oh no,
from
you do.
Epiphany Sutra. So this is a set of curated sensorial rituals. It's got 5 rituals in it, and it's one ritual for every sense.
Okay.
And the idea is creativity. The way I understand it is all about expanding your perspective. And the way we expand our perspective is through our senses.
Yeah,
that's how we perceive. So, here is a set of 5 rituals. It's called Essences.
Okay.
That's for you. I hope you enjoy engaging.
I love it.
With them.
And you're doing a great job. At the end here, you're making a moment. I love it. This is so cool.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. This is great.
This was so wonderful.
Thanks for having me. I love it.
Thank you.